The story begins at an airport where we meet a pilot named Brad. He is walking quickly toward the plane while talking to his daughter on a video call. His daughter tells him that she watched the news that morning, and they were saying that the weather in the area where he is going is very bad. Because of this, many other flights have already been cancelled. She asks him to cancel his flight too and come back home, but Brad smiles and tells her not to worry. He says he has flown safely through this kind of weather many times before, so everything will be fine. He promises that he will be back home soon. Hearing this, his daughter feels better and ends the call. After that, Brad enters the cockpit and meets the co-pilot. The co-pilot looks a little nervous because this is the first time he is going to fly a plane. Just then, a flight attendant comes to Brad and asks him to come outside. There, a police officer tells Brad that because of an emergency, they need him to take a criminal on the flight. The criminal's name is Tony. He is a very strong and dangerous man who has been charged with murder. Now he is being taken to another country where he will be sent to prison for life. The police officer tells Brad that they are giving him this responsibility because he is an experienced and sensible pilot. Brad agrees and makes Tony sit in one of the last seats of the plane so the other passengers will not be disturbed. After that, all the passengers take their seats. Brad checks with the plane staff and confirms that everyone has boarded. Once everything is ready, the plane takes off. After reaching a safe height, Brad puts the plane on autopilot and starts talking to the co-pilot about his family. Brad shows him a photo of his daughter on his phone. He says that he loves his daughter very much, and in this world they have no one except each other. Meanwhile, the passengers are enjoying their journey, but none of them know that something terrible is going to happen very soon. Inside the cockpit, both pilots are also relaxed, and the plane is flying normally. But suddenly, the weather becomes much worse, and the plane starts shaking slightly. Brad immediately becomes worried because something does not feel right to him. He makes an announcement and tells all the passengers to fasten their seat belts. Then he tries to contact the control tower through the radio, but he cannot reach them. Because of the bad weather, all the radios in this area have stopped working. Suddenly, a powerful bolt of lightning strikes the plane. The aircraft starts shaking violently. Brad leaves the cockpit for a moment to check on the passengers. When he sees them, he feels a little relieved because everyone is still safe. But slowly, the lights inside the plane begin to go out. Then the plane is hit by several more strong jolts. Brad is thrown upward and his head hits the ceiling before he falls to the floor. His forehead is injured. Seeing everything happening around them, the passengers become even more terrified. Brad quickly returns to the cockpit and starts working with the co-pilot to control the plane. It is becoming very difficult for them. Because of the terrible weather, they can hardly see anything in front of the aircraft. Brad says that they have to bring the plane lower because if it takes another strong hit, the aircraft could be destroyed. They immediately start reducing the altitude, and the plane begins moving quickly downward. Inside the cabin, all the passengers are extremely scared. At that moment, the police officer who is traveling with the criminal Tony accidentally drops his phone. He removes his seat belt so he can pick it up. A flight attendant also removes her seat belt and moves forward to help him. Because the plane is dropping very quickly, the moment the police officer and the flight attendant remove their seat belts, both of them are thrown hard toward the ceiling. They hit the roof with so much force that they die instantly. Meanwhile, the plane finally reaches a much lower altitude, and somehow Brad and the co-pilot manage to bring it under control. But now the aircraft has very little power left. Brad knows that he cannot take the plane all the way to an airport, so he decides that their only option may be to bring the plane down and make a crash landing in the ocean. But just then, the two pilots notice an island in the distance. Brad immediately turns the plane toward it and decides to land there instead. After struggling to control the aircraft, Brad finally manages to make an emergency landing on a road on the island. Luckily, all the passengers survive the landing safely, and no one gets injured. Just then, there is a short circuit near the back of the plane. Brad is actually happy to see this, because it means the aircraft still has a little electricity left. After all the passengers get out, one of the flight attendants comes to Captain Brad and tells him that the police officer who was transporting Tony has died. She also tells him that another flight attendant has been killed. Hearing this, Brad becomes very upset. On the other side, the owner of the airline realizes that one of his planes has suddenly disappeared. The plane never reached its destination, and because the radio connection has been down for a long time, they have not been able to contact the pilot either. Because of this, the airline owner calls a rescue expert named Scarsdale. His job is to find people who are trapped in dangerous situations. The airline owner tells him that he wants every detail about the missing plane. He wants to know where the aircraft went, where his workers are, and what happened to all the passengers. After hearing this, Scarsdale immediately starts working on the rescue mission. Back on the island, all the passengers are confused and wondering why they have landed there. Brad gathers everyone together and explains that they had no choice because of the emergency. He tells them that the plane still has a small amount of electricity, and they will try to use it to repair the important systems. Until then, he asks everyone to stay calm and rest near the plane. Brad assures them that they will find a way out of this place very soon. After that, he returns to the aircraft and starts checking the damage. But he soon realizes that the plane has very little power left, so they may have to wait for outside help. Brad and the co-pilot take out a map and try to figure out their exact location. After studying the map, the co-pilot tells Brad that they are trapped on a private island. He also explains that this place is extremely dangerous. The people living here do not follow the laws of any government. If those people find them, everyone could be in serious danger, and even their own government may not be able to save them. After hearing this, Brad says they must somehow contact the rescue team and bring them to the island. That is now their only way to escape. Brad and the co-pilot start trying to repair the radio so they can call for help, but the lightning strike has completely damaged it, and it is no longer working. Brad then goes back to the passengers and tells them that the radio is not working because of a technical problem. Still, he asks everyone not to panic. He explains that they will go to the other side of the island and try to find another radio. If they can contact the control tower, they can give them their location and ask them to send a rescue team. Then Brad makes a very risky decision. He says that Tony will go with him. Brad removes Tony's handcuffs and sets him free. He then tells the co-pilot to stay behind and continue working on the plane's power. Brad promises that he will try every possible way to contact the rescue team and bring help to the island. After that, Brad and Tony leave the plane and head into the jungle to search for a working radio. While walking through the jungle, Tony thanks Brad for trusting him. Meanwhile, we are shown a dangerous armed group living on the island. A man comes running toward them and informs their leader that a plane has made an emergency landing on the island. He also tells him that there are many people inside the plane, and they are passengers from different countries. After hearing this, the leader of the group gives some money to the man who brought him the information. Then he tells his men to get ready. Meanwhile, Brad and Tony are moving deeper into the jungle. Tony asks Brad why he removed his handcuffs and where he is taking him now. Brad tells him that he cannot put everyone else in danger because of him. He also explains that there is a dangerous armed group on this island, and Tony may have to help him deal with them. Tony then tells Brad that he has a military background and that he served in the US military for several years. A short time later, Brad notices that Tony has suddenly stopped talking. When Brad turns around, Tony is no longer there. He has escaped and disappeared into the jungle. Brad has no choice, so he continues moving forward alone. After walking for some time, Brad reaches an abandoned factory. Inside, he finds an old telephone, but it is not working. Brad checks the wires connected to it and starts fixing them. After joining the wires correctly, the telephone finally starts working. Brad quickly calls the airline company helpline and tries to explain their location and everything that has happened. But because of a problem in the phone line, the person on the other side cannot hear him clearly. Thinking that the call is useless, the helpline worker disconnects it. Brad then gets another idea. He calls his daughter and tells her their location. He also asks her to write down all the important details on a piece of paper and take them to his office. But while Brad is still talking to her, a man suddenly comes from behind and attacks him. Brad struggles with the attacker for some time but finally manages to overpower him. He hits the man several times until he becomes unconscious. Just then, Brad realizes that someone else is entering the room. He quickly hides and waits, but the person coming inside is actually Tony. Tony has already taken down several armed men and collected their weapons. He calls out to Brad and tells him not to be afraid and to come out. When Brad appears, Tony gives him a gun so he can protect himself. After that, both of them move to the lower floor of the factory. There, they find a camera along with several passports. After checking the camera recordings and the passports, they discover the truth about the people living on this island. These armed men kidnap people and demand huge amounts of money from their families. Even after the families pay the ransom, they do not release the victims. Instead, they kill them. Seeing this, Brad immediately realizes that all of his passengers are in serious danger. Brad and Tony quickly leave the factory, and outside they notice a vehicle. It belongs to the same attacker Brad had just fought. They get inside the vehicle and start driving back toward the plane. Meanwhile, all the passengers are sitting near the aircraft and waiting for Brad to return with help. Suddenly, they hear the sound of vehicles coming toward them. The passengers become excited because they think Brad has returned with a rescue team. But these people are not rescuers. They are the armed men from the island. As soon as they arrive, they begin firing their guns into the air to scare everyone. Brad and Tony also hear the gunshots from a distance. They immediately increase the speed of their vehicle and rush toward the plane. The leader of the group asks the flight attendant to give him the complete passenger list. Terrified, she quickly brings the list and hands it over to him. Then one of the armed men asks the co-pilot where the the senior pilot is. The co-pilot tells him that Brad went into the jungle for some work, but he has not returned yet. By this time, Brad and Tony have reached the area as well. However, they stay at a distance and secretly watch everything that is happening. During this moment, one woman suddenly tries to run away, but the armed men shoot her and kill her. Brad sees this and immediately wants to go forward to help the passengers. Tony stops him and tells him to stay calm because this is not the right time to attack. The group leader then forces all the passengers onto a bus. Before leaving, he orders 2 of his men to stay behind. He tells them to go inside the plane and take anything valuable they can find. After that, the gang starts taking all the passengers toward their hideout. Once they leave, Brad gets angry with Tony. He tells him that the attackers took all of their passengers away, but Tony did not even let him go after them. Tony explains that there were too many armed men. Even if Brad had gone there, he could not have fought such a large group by himself. After that, Brad and Tony move toward the plane. There, they catch the 2 gang members who were stealing valuable things from inside the aircraft. Brad points a gun at them and asks where their leader has taken the passengers. One of them tells him that their hideout is not far from there, and the passengers have most likely been taken to that place. Meanwhile, Brad's daughter reaches the rescue expert and gives him the paper with all the information Brad had told her to write down. The paper contains the plane's location and other important details. Using satellite information, the rescue expert finally finds the location of the aircraft. They discover that the plane is stuck on an island. They also learn that a dangerous armed group controls that area. After this, the rescue expert calls the captain of a private military team. He explains the whole situation and tells him to go to the island. The captain agrees. He and his men prepare for the mission by loading a bag full of money and several bags of weapons into their vehicle. Back at the plane, Brad notices that before being taken away, the co-pilot had managed to repair the aircraft's power system. Brad sees that the plane now has power again, which makes him very happy. Before leaving, Brad writes a message on his uniform for the private rescue team that may arrive later. Then he and Tony head toward the place where the gang has taken all the passengers. They move through the jungle and finally reach the gang's hideout. Brad and Tony get out of their vehicle and quietly enter the area. Inside, they see the gang threatening the passengers and recording videos of them. The gang plans to send these videos to the passengers' families and demand money in return. Meanwhile, the private team sent by the rescue expert also reaches the plane. When they find no one there, their captain goes inside the aircraft to check it. There, they find the bodies of the 2 men who had been ordered by the gang leader to steal valuable items from the plane. Brad had already taken care of both of them. The private team captain also finds the message Brad left behind. The message gives them directions to the gang's hideout. At the hideout, Brad and Tony continue watching the armed men from a hidden position. As soon as they get a chance, they quietly move behind 2 guards and take them down. Then they move deeper inside and reach a room. All the passengers are being held inside this room. Brad wants to free them, but there are many guards around the area. He also does not have the key to open the locked door. Brad and Tony then start taking down the guards one by one. Tony even picks up a hammer and uses it against several of them. Brad finally gets the key from one of the guards and unlocks the room. He frees all the passengers and tells them to quickly get into the same bus that the gang used to bring them there. Everyone rushes toward the bus and gets inside. Just then, Tony comes to Brad and tells him that there is only one road they can use to escape in a vehicle. The problem is that several armed men are standing near that route. The moment they see the bus, they will start shooting at them. Brad looks toward the passengers and sees how terrified they are. He then makes a dangerous decision and puts his own life at risk. Brad tells Tony that he will distract all the armed men, while Tony uses that chance to take the passengers away from the hideout. At first, Tony refuses to let Brad do it. He tells him that the gang will kill him if he goes out there alone, but Brad says they do not have any other choice. After hearing this, Tony finally agrees. Brad leaves the others and walks toward the armed men. He speaks directly to the gang leader and tells him that he has already called for help. He says a rescue team will arrive soon, so they should let all the passengers go. Hearing this, the gang members start laughing at Brad. Then they grab him and begin beating him. The gang leader tells Brad that he never lets anyone go without getting money first. Just as they are about to kill Brad, the private rescue team suddenly arrives and attacks the gang. A heavy gunfight begins between both sides. After fighting for some time, the private team kills several gang members and manages to free Brad. They quickly take him to the bus and escape from the area. The gang leader then sees that many of his men have been killed, including his younger brother. This makes him extremely angry. He promises that he will not spare a single person and will hunt them down one by one. He orders the remaining members of his group to get ready because they are going after them immediately. Inside the bus, the captain of the private team explains the truth to everyone. He tells them that they are only a small private team of 5 men. Their mission was only to reach the passengers and protect them. They are not the actual rescue team. The real rescue team will still need some more time to arrive. Hearing this, Brad becomes worried. He says they do not have enough time because the gang will soon come after them. If they stay there, the attackers will find them and kill them. But Brad says he has an idea. As soon as they reach the plane, Brad gathers all the passengers and tells them that the aircraft has power again. This means the plane can now start, and they may be able to leave the island immediately. Brad tells everyone to get inside the aircraft as quickly as possible. He explains that they cannot wait for the rescue team because it will take too long for them to arrive. If they remain on the island, the gang will reach them first and they may all be killed. After hearing this, all the passengers quickly board the plane. Brad then starts checking every important system of the aircraft. Meanwhile, the private team takes defensive positions and prepares for the danger they know is coming. A short time later, the armed gang suddenly arrives and attacks them. The private team immediately starts fighting back. A heavy gunfight breaks out around the plane. The private soldiers have much better weapons, so they manage to take down many of the attackers. Brad quickly tells the captain of the private team that he is going to start moving the plane in 5 minutes. He tells all of them to make sure they are on board before that happens. After this, Brad goes to Tony and thanks him for helping him during such a dangerous situation. Brad then protects himself from the gunfire and runs back inside the aircraft. He reaches the cockpit and starts working with the co-pilot to get the plane ready for takeoff. Outside, Tony eventually runs out of bullets. While searching through the private team's bags for more ammunition, he finds one bag completely filled with money. But instead of taking the money, Tony leaves it there. He opens another bag, takes out more bullets, and immediately returns to the fight. By this time, Brad has also turned the plane toward the right direction so they can prepare to leave. The private team members now start boarding the aircraft one by one, while Tony stays outside and gives them cover fire. Since the plane's power has returned, the radio also starts working again. Brad finally receives a message from the owner of the airline company. The owner tells him that he will guide Brad toward a safe place where he can take the plane. Now everyone manages to get inside the plane, but Tony does not get on board. Instead, he grabs the bag full of money and starts running away from the aircraft. Tony knows that if he goes back with them, the police will arrest him again and send him back to prison. Meanwhile, the gang leader becomes furious after seeing so many of his men getting killed. He brings a rocket launcher in front of the plane and plans to destroy the aircraft with a single shot, but Tony notices him at the right moment. He quickly raises his gun and shoots the gang leader before he can fire the rocket. By doing this, Tony saves everyone on the plane. Brad sees what Tony has done and is very happy that he helped them one last time. Brad then uses all his strength and finally manages to get the plane into the air. Tony watches the aircraft take off and feels happy for Brad and all the passengers. After that, he takes the bag full of money and runs deep into the jungle. Brad flies the plane away from the dangerous island. The airline owner then tells him about a nearby airport where they can safely land. Brad turns the aircraft toward the location given by the airline company. But suddenly, the plane's engine catches fire again and the aircraft starts losing control. Brad immediately turns on the emergency warning and begins bringing the plane down toward the runway. He carefully tries to control the damaged aircraft while getting closer to the ground. Finally, after a lot of difficulty, Brad manages to land the plane safely on the runway. Everyone survives. Brad and his co-pilot are extremely happy and relieved. Back at the airline company, the owner and his team are also very happy to know that the plane has landed safely. Brad then leaves the cockpit and goes to check on the passengers. He sees that everyone is safe, and this finally gives him some peace. All the passengers begin clapping for Brad and thanking him for saving their lives. A short time later, the rescue team also arrives at the airport. Seeing them, the passengers feel even more relieved. Brad sends all the passengers with the rescue team. After everything is finally over, Captain Brad sits on the stairs of the plane and takes a moment to relax. He then calls his daughter and talks to her. With this, the story comes to an end. If you liked this movie recap, then like the video and don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to our channel to see more such amazing movie recaps. Thanks for watching.